It's my great pleasure and honour to introduce Matt Greenhalgh, the screenwriter of The Look of Love. Matt is the screenwriter of two of the most distinctive British films already of the last decade. Control, Nowhere Boy and The Look of Love are emotional, nuanced biopics about people who've changed popular culture in the UK and of the women, their relationships to the women in their lives. So please join me in welcoming to the stage our very special guest tonight, screenwriter of The Look of Love, Mr. Matt Greenhalgh. Who has run a marathon today?
Well, nearly 21 miles. The marathon's in 2 weeks, so I'm glad for that. See, thank you, Bradford, for giving us a fantastic platform to premiere our film tonight. I'm so looking forward to everyone's reactions. We think it's good. Steve Coogan is in Chicago filming a pilot for HBO, but he did say to me he's thanking you in advance for the standing ovation, which we have got at Sundance and Berlin. So no pressure, Bradford. I won't give too much of the plot away. However, I will reveal that you will see nipples. And I can't wait, honestly, for it to happen. And you might see a bit more than nipples as well, so if you're, you know. At the end of the day, I am really, really proud of the film. I think it's so different for me personally, and I hope you have as much enjoyment watching it as I did researching it. Thank you very much.
Matt, you mentioned in your intro that you really enjoyed researching the film. Apart from the obvious, I mean, Paul Raymond touched on so many different parts of that part of London. He's made such an impact on Soho. And when I saw the film at a London screening, straight afterwards, there were people coming up to the distributors and telling stories about Paul Raymond and all this. And there are still many, many characters around in Soho that knew Paul. Mm-hmm. How did you research it? Did you speak to many characters in Soho who knew him?
No. No, I think the way I work is because you have to imagine the character in your own head, and talking to too many people or talking to too many people that know that character intimately doesn't do you any good. So what you know is the factual events of how they lived their lives, and we had a great book by Paul Willits about Paul, which came out coincidentally about two months before we even decided to do the film. So we bought the rights on that. So automatically I had a great manuscript to work from, and then it's just about imagining what they say, because, you know, let's be honest, he didn't say most of those words. You know, and we are sort of making it up. But at the end of the day, it's entertainment, I suppose. And you have to do it in the right spirit. And I think that's the key in all my films, is that if it's in the right spirit, then, and if people are happy to give you those manuscripts when you've got the facts, then you should go ahead and do it.
Because there's a lot also in the Paul Willits book that touches on all kinds of other areas of Paul Raymond's life, like extortion threats from people pretending to be the IRA. There's various dealings with various gangsters. There's challenging obscenity laws. But your screenplay draws out the female elements of his story. How did you decide to do that immediately? Because it features in your other films too. I
think, you know, you can either go the documentary style, which is, you know, I think is great for documentaries, but if you're making a film, it's all about characters, and what I enjoy doing, and I think what most people in film enjoy doing, is drawing great characters and seeing the stories that emit from these people that you know, you concentrate on. And you know, there was a lot of corruption, and there was a whole police sort of subplot going on at that time, but you only have, you know, a certain amount of time to tell a panoramic story, which I think Michael Winterbottom's done fantastically here. Yeah, and you have to concentrate on what you feel will keep an audience gripped. And police corruption stories are fine, but you probably need about 6 films to be able to do that. So it's tough, but that's what you do before you start getting to the filming process. You make sure that the script is a place where everyone who's collaborating on it is happy.
And can you say something about the beginnings of the project? 'Cause I understand it was originally Steve Coogan's idea to make the film.
Well, I mean, I got a call out of the blue, and all these sort of films happen with a call out of the blue. And Steve said he's in Manchester because he's Mancunian like me, and he's coming to meet his family, but can we have a meeting at the Corner House in Manchester to talk about Paul Raymond? And he met me, and Steve was a big hero, man. I've never met him before. I mean, massive. I mean, Paul Calf I was Paul Calf. In many ways. I did have a girlfriend called Julian as well. So, even for that I was going to take the meeting, but then he just progressed to go on in the back of the Corner House, which I knew was in the video diaries anyway, so I knew it was kind of special to give me an hour and a half impression of Paul Raymond. And everyone in the Corner House was laughing at him, and I was laughing at him. And he said
he'd researched Paul.
Yeah, he wanted to do this.
Yeah,
he wanted to do this, and fortunately, he kind of singled me out to write it. But I know that him and Michael work very closely together, so it was kind of weird because I said at the end of it, "Do you really need a writer for this? Why don't you just go and ad lib or improv the whole thing?" And no, he was kind of adamant that we could all do it together. So there was a few more meetings down the line. I kind of knew Michael anyway, and then then we started the process, and I got on board because once someone like Steve and Michael start wanting to work with you, it's, you have to be a bit of a fool to say no.
And Matt was saying last year apparently you also did the Manchester Marathon with Steve Coogan. Still with his Paul Raymond hair.
Yeah, still permed up and highlighted up and all that, and not a lot of people recognise him. But we did get our fair share of ahas on the way. But
was it flapping in the wind?
Yeah, it was flapping in the wind. It was flapping in the wind, and he was in some Dayglow shorts, and it was all up very camp. With me as well, doing some stretches with him because he had only done 12 miles and he was cramping up by 15, and so he asked me to do some stretches with him. And I'm just going, this is more bizarre than actually, when we first met, because we're getting physically intimate.
I think there are some microphones in the audience. If anyone would like to ask a question, please do raise your hand. I think there's a gentleman over here already, so we'll take a question from this chap at the back, please.
Oh, thank you. Matt is wonderfully well put together. It's a lovely film. I enjoyed it very much. I like the music as well. Donovan and Dusty do it for me, definitely. And I think it had hilarity and poignancy in wonderfully measured amounts. Although I do think that Rob Brydon would have done a better impression of Sean Connery.
I'll pass that on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to promoting this film in York because it's playing at City Screen in York in the near future, and I shall start doing that on Sunday when we're showing another Michael Winterbottom film starring Steve Coogan, A Cock and Bull Story, which also has Shirley Henderson and Stephen Fry in it as well. So we're celebrating 300 years of the birth of Lawrence Stern, the author of Tristram Shandy. So we'll be plugging Look of Love from Sunday.
And what a great city to do it. I love York.
Thank you very much, mate. There wasn't a question in there, I know.
Guy Fawkes.
What
a guy.
Shameless self-promotion there, but there you go.
No. Do you want me to come up? I'm cheap.
You mentioned the poignancy, the shift. There's the beginning of the film. It's larky as you'd expect, but then as the Imogen Poots character comes out, then there's this nice, for me, really nice shift into the kind of poignant tones that you see at the very end. Can you say a little bit about Imogen Poots, and was she cast from the very beginning of the film?
Yeah, we always wanted Imogen to play Debbie, for many reasons. Is that I think she's probably the best up-and-coming British actress on the scene, and she also looked like her a bit. And you know, it's very hard to cast things like that because Imogen's got offers coming left, right, and centre from all over the world. So it comes down to, and I don't know, sort of, you know, beat my own drum, but it all comes down to the script and the fact that Debbie is probably just as big a part as Paul.
Yeah. And
that's when you start attracting the talent. And you know, there's many times that we had sort of script meetings where the script was going Debbie's way, because if you think about it, if you look at it as well, it's probably intrinsically more dramatic than Paul's story. Mm. So this could have been a story about Debbie, totally. So it was very, I think it was a very attractive part and role for someone to take, and you know, I wasn't surprised that Imogen went for it in the end.
Yeah. Well, there's this thing in Willitz's book where he talks about Paul's attitude to life and money, and how he equated well-being with happiness, and never noticed that Debbie was in such a state towards the end of her life. And I think, you know, it's that, for me, it's that thing that draws out the sadness.
I think Paul was also in a bit of a state, but I think he came from a different era where he was, you know, he was a very cold fish to a certain extent, and so things weren't a problem. Or he was very anti-crying, Paul. Mm. He didn't like anyone to cry. And so, you know, because of the way that he was probably reared, it all just comes down to the generations. But what he really didn't understand is that his money and the wealth that he created was totally a different world, or an alien world from where he came from. And you know, Debbie had to handle that. Mm. And not also that, because pornography is a very fleeting kind of pastime for most of us. But you know, imagine if it's not, and imagine if not only it's not fleeting, but you're in there 24/7, and your dad is Mr. Pornography, and you're a young girl, and also you're not as pretty as the girls that are being represented in those magazines. And you know, and imagine if all you want to do is to please your father, then it just becomes, you know, and you haven't got a father that understands that. And it becomes a horrible place to live, I imagine. Mm.
Maybe take another question from the audience, if there are any. Please raise your hand. Yes, madam down here on your right. Yes, please, if you could. Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the film. Very nuanced, very brave to do that cold emotion in Paul Raymond. I noticed at the end, as the credits went up, there was an acknowledgement to the two girls, to Fawn and India Jane, and I wondered, have they seen the film, and to what extent they were involved. But I have to say, being from Liverpool, and he was from Liverpool, Mossley Hill is posh.
Yes, it is. But was it posh in...
Yes.
Was it?
Yes, believe me. But let's dwell on that. I'd like to know about the involvement of the girls.
Yeah, I met Fawn and India in Berlin when we had the gala evening there, and for the first time. And they were very... they have been very pro the film, and always have been. They, obviously being orphaned at a very young age from their mother, are aware of her problems and the way it went. And I would say it's not an easy thing for them to take, but however they've done it in a very mature way. And I think the fortune that they've inherited, if you look at the way that they are, then they're also doing that the same way as well. They will be at the film premieres and they will love it. I don't know. I think it is. I mean, if I was in their shoes, it's a very, very difficult film to watch for them. But I think it's so far down the line since they lost the mother that I think they're just happy that there's something out there that accurately portrays what happened. But I'm not sure about that. I mean, yes, it's a really interesting area for me. But they seemed happy enough. They've got a few bob.
But money, as we saw, is not everything.
Exactly, yeah. So I don't know what the effect of this post down the line. Hopefully they'll say that they'll see that it's hopefully it helps them.
Thank you.
We perhaps have time for another couple of questions if people would like to raise their hands. There's a gentleman just there.
Considering the sort of vacuous lifestyle that he led and the film showed, and the money over everything else sort of lifestyle, and the passing of a major British figure this week that propagated such a lifestyle, was her death part of a major viral marketing campaign for the film?
Added to that, apparently Paul sent 30,000 copies of Men Only to the Falkland Islands in 1982, met Thatcher the same week.
Well, no, but now you mentioned it, I will pass it on to Studio Canal, you know what I mean?
Maybe
we can use it somewhere down the line. You're listening.
There's something I wanted to ask you, actually, Matt. Someone who's worked on biopics of musicians, Control about Ian Curtis and Nowhere Boy about John Lennon. Were you ever tempted to include the Elton John connection with Paul Raymond? Apparently Paul Raymond tried to buy Watford Football Club from Elton John. Elton refused, so it sold it to Robert Maxwell instead. On moral grounds.
Yeah, but I mean, no.
Fair enough.
There's loads of little stories like that, but you really have to focus in on what the heart of a film is, because as they're saying, you haven't got enough time to really tell everything.
Do you have any more questions from the audience? I think this might be the last question, sir, over here.
I don't see how we can talk about this film without talking about the sexual politics. Would you like to comment on that?
Would you?
It just seems to me that you've made a pornographer into a charming bloke, and there's another side to it, and the way you're talking chummily here about Paul it seems to me problematic. I mean, there's got to be some edge there, and there seems to be no edge at all.
Well, yeah, we've had long conversations into the night with me, Steve and Michael about the whole sexual politics of it all. It's very hard to be able to do a film about a pornographer without celebrating his life, otherwise it'd be very dreary. It's a piece of entertainment, it's in the right spirit of who he was. I think we do bring out the fact that, you know, things do come on, you know, if you do behave like that, or if you do portray women like that, then you aren't going to get away with it. It's how you want to hook into that feminist idealism, which I wanted to a bit more, to be honest. But you know, you have Steve Coogan playing a pornographer, and it's very hard not to bring that out, because he is the star of it. I would say if you wanted to go and look at that way of the story, go and watch the documentary. But no, this is a film and it's entertainment, and I'm sure it wouldn't have been portrayed any differently. If it was, then probably not. People won't go and see it.
One last question from the lady just there.
Yes, I want to ask a question about the sexual politics, and particularly about the objectifying of women. Yeah. Did you think that you had to go into such graphic detail with the pornography? And would it have been different if a woman had written the film?
Well, pornography is graphic, for a start. I can't speak on anyone else's behalf as a woman writing the film. I wrote it, and men directed it, and men starred in it.
Well, Well, it's a film about a pornographer, and if you're going to make a film about a pornographer, then, in my opinion, in our opinion, as the festival, then the film has to show pornography. Otherwise, it's a dishonest film. That's my take on it. Well, it's not entirely sweet.
I think you've got valid questions, but as a writer of it, I think these are ones, and this is not me passing the book, but these are definitely ones for Michael and Stephen.
Well, this is true. I mean,
this is me passing the book.
I
wanted to go further into that sort of situation, and maybe the collaboration didn't allow it, because I'm very much I feel a feminist. I do feel like that, but was I not going to do the film? I knew who I was getting into bed with. No, I was going to do it.
And there is, I think,
getting into bed with him. Yeah.
There is, I think,
Three men.
There is a documentary coming out, I think, about the same subject. Because I think the film was originally going to be titled King of Soho. There's another project called King of Soho, which is a documentary about Paul Raymond.
I think that's already out. I think basically his son Howard is trying to do another film called, because he patented the title King of Soho.
Okay.
And but I think that's all. If that ever happens, I'll be very surprised.
Well, Matt, thank you once again for presenting this film. I think it's a terrific film. I think it's one of the best releases of this early part of the new year. We're very, very pleased to have it open the Bradford International Film Festival. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, there is entertainment still continuing outside in the foyer area, in the cafe. Please do give thanks to M. Brulé, who's been singing and performing for us all evening. And don't forget to collect your goodie bags, which are provided by Virgin Media very kindly as you leave. But lastly, thank you all again for coming. I do hope you enjoy the next 11 days of cinema. And finally, please join me in thanking our special guest, Matt Greenhalgh.